$201 a month, $2,411 a year, $24,000 a decade. That is what the average American household spends on gasoline, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' 2024 Consumer Expenditure Survey. Most of that spending is unnecessary. Across the Pacific, the Japanese government published an official driving doctrine in 2003. Isuzu Motors ran the doctrine through their Hokkaido test track for 13 years, with 12,000 participants. The average improvement in fuel economy was 26%. The best participants hit 35% in a single afternoon. The doctrine contains 8 core techniques. None of them cost money. Most take less than 5 minutes a month to apply. The realistic savings on a $200 monthly gas bill is roughly $100 back in your pocket every month for as long as you own the car. And the most counterintuitive technique on the Japanese list is something American drivers were specifically trained to avoid at every single traffic light. It saves the most fuel of all. That is where we'll start. Quick disclaimer before we start, the tips and guides in this video are for educational purposes only. Every vehicle is different, so please use this information at your own risk. We are not responsible for any damage or injury that may occur. When in doubt, always consult a professional mechanic. Here is what most American drivers don't realize about Japan. The Liaison Council on Promoting Eco-Driving is not a hobbyist group. It is a joint body of 4 government agencies: the National Police Agency, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, and the Ministry of the Environment. They formed in 2003 specifically to engineer fuel-efficient driving as national policy. Their compilation is called The 10 Recommendations for Eco-Driving, published in 2003, revised in 2006, revised in 2012, revised again in 2020. 4 iterations of refinement based on field data. To prove the techniques worked outside theory, Isuzu Motors spent 13 years running real drivers through their Hokkaido test track. 12,000 participants, 26% average improvement. In one specific challenge, 15 drivers using 6 basic techniques: minimize speed, accelerate slowly, upshift at low RPM, maximize time in top gear, keep a steady foot, avoid overuse of engine braking, averaged a 35% jump in fuel economy in a single afternoon. That is not theory. That is what fuel economy looks like when a country treats individual driving habits as national infrastructure. So, what are the techniques? The data shows the problem in 3 numbers. Oak Ridge National Laboratory is the Department of Energy's flagship research facility. Their researcher John Thomas led a study published in the SAE International Journal of Passenger Cars that quantified what aggressive driving costs. The findings: aggressive driving lowers fuel economy by 10 to 40% in stop-and-go traffic, and 15 to 30% at highway speeds. Translate that into dollars. Thomas calculated that aggressive driving habits effectively cost drivers between 25 cents and $1 per gallon at the pump. At today's national average of $4.09 per gallon, an aggressive driver is paying the equivalent of $5.09 per gallon. A gentle driver pays sticker price. Now multiply that across mileage. The Department of Transportation reports the average American driver covers 14,263 miles per year. At 22 miles per gallon, that is 648 gallons. At a $1 per gallon penalty, aggressive driving costs that driver $648 per year. Compounded over a decade, $6,480 never recovered. Here is where the auto industry plays a role. American car marketing emphasizes performance metrics, 0 to 60 times, horsepower numbers, track day capability. Fuel discipline is rarely advertised, even though it determines what 90% of drivers actually pay every month. The aggressive driving style is not your default. It is a trained response to 30 years of marketing that rewarded speed over precision. There is one more layer. If you drive a hybrid, the penalty is roughly double. The Oak Ridge study compared a hybrid electric vehicle to a conventional gasoline sedan and found that hybrids are nearly twice as sensitive to aggressive driving. The reason is mechanical. Hybrid drivetrains rely on regenerative braking to capture kinetic energy and feed it back into the battery. Aggressive acceleration and hard braking bypass this system completely. A Toyota Prius driven aggressively performs no better than a conventional sedan, sometimes worse. So American drivers are paying somewhere between $480 and $1,200 a year for habits the auto industry trained them into, and the data confirms are unnecessary. The question is what the alternative looks like in practice and what the techniques are worth in dollars. Compare that to the advice American drivers actually receive. The most common piece of fuel-saving guidance, warm up your engine for 5 minutes before driving, is a holdover from the carburetor era. Carburetors needed time to mix air and fuel correctly when cold. Every American car built before the early 1980s had one. Then, fuel injection replaced carburetors. AAA Automotive confirmed it directly. Modern engines need 30 seconds maximum before driving off gently. The rest of the warm-up happens faster in motion than at idle. The math on extended warm-up is brutal. Department of Energy data shows that idling 10 minutes burns roughly half a gallon of fuel. A driver who warms up for 10 minutes every winter morning for 90 days burns 45 gallons of gasoline going nowhere. At $4.09 per gallon, $184 wasted on outdated advice in a single winter. Other mainstream tips don't fare better. Premium gasoline in an engine designed for regular does not improve fuel economy. No DOE data supports that claim. Extreme hypermiling techniques like drafting trucks or coasting in neutral are illegal in many states and dangerous everywhere. The deeper issue is structural. American advice gives drivers one tip at a time. Japan published a system of techniques designed to compound. Japan figured out the system 22 years ago. The first technique on their official list is something most Americans actively avoid every single morning at every single traffic light, and it cuts fuel consumption by 10% on its own. It is called e-start. Here is exactly how it works. In the first 5 seconds after a green light, the Japanese Doctrine instructs the driver to reach only 20 kilometers per hour, about 12 miles per hour. Gentle pedal pressure, the opposite of stepping on the gas to merge. That is the entire technique. Why do American drivers avoid it? The answer is social, not mechanical. Honking from cars behind you. The feeling that gentle acceleration looks hesitant. Decades of marketing that celebrated 0 to 60 times. The discomfort is social, not engineering. Here is what is happening inside the engine. Modern engines have a fuel injection map controlled by the Engine Control Unit, the ECU. Throttle position and RPM determine which mode the engine runs in. When the pedal is pushed hard, the ECU enters performance enrichment mode. Extra fuel is injected to match torque demand. The fuel-air mixture shifts richer than the optimal combustion ratio. You burn measurably more gasoline than the vehicle needed to move. Gentle acceleration keeps the engine in economy mode for the entire start cycle. The fuel-air mixture stays at the chemically optimal ratio. The difference per acceleration event is 2 to 3 times more fuel for the aggressive launch. The data is published. Researchers Kato and Kobayashi of the Society of Automotive Engineers of Japan measured the technique in 2008. The finding: e-start alone reduces fuel consumption by approximately 10%. That figure now sits embedded in Japan's official doctrine. There are 2 situations where e-start fails: merging onto fast-moving highways where acceleration is a safety requirement. An uphill starts where the engine demands torque regardless of pedal pressure. In both cases, ECU performance mode is appropriate. The Japanese doctrine acknowledges this e-start applies to about 90% of drives, not 100%. If you drive a hybrid, the gain's nearly double. Oak Ridge National Laboratory data shows hybrid drivetrains were engineered for gentle inputs. Regenerative braking and electric motor assist deliver maximum efficiency when acceleration is smooth. A Prius driver applying e-start sees roughly 20% fuel improvement, twice what a conventional vehicle returns. Run the math at the average American gas budget. A 10% fuel savings on a $2,411 annual gas bill returns $241 per year per driver, per minute of driving. Differently, 0 cost, 0 parts. The only investment is ignoring the car behind you. That is technique number 1. Step 2 costs nothing, takes 5 minutes a month, and most American drivers have never checked it correctly. The Department of Energy and Oak Ridge National Laboratory tested a 2009 Toyota Corolla at 3 different tire pressures. The results were precise. At 75% of recommended pressure, fuel economy dropped 2 to 3%. At 50% of recommended pressure, fuel economy dropped 10% at 40 miles per hour. The DOE formalized the relationship. 0.2% fuel economy loss for every 1 PSI drop across all 4 tires. Properly inflated tires return up to 3.3% improvement. The cost is zero. Most gas stations offer free air. The critical detail: use the PSI on the driver's door jam sticker, not the maximum number on the tire sidewall. Check monthly. Tires lose roughly 1 pound per square inch per month naturally. Japan's Medidata identified tailgating as a fuel killer. Short following distance forces frequent acceleration and braking. Each brake event is wasted. Kinetic energy fuel converted to heat in the brake rotors, gone forever. The penalty: 2% fuel loss in urban driving, 6% in suburban driving. The fix is a 4-second following gap in anticipating traffic flow. On highways, cruise control does the math automatically. This one is counterintuitive. Modern engines cut fuel injection completely during deceleration when the gear is engaged and the foot is off the accelerator. Zero fuel consumed during the slowdown. Coasting in neutral consumes more fuel because the engine still burns fuel to maintain idle. Japan's official doctrine recommends lifting off the accelerator approximately 100 meters before red lights. The engine does the braking. The fuel injection sits at 0. 2% fuel savings. Instantly. The Department of Energy publishes the cleanest math of any fuel-saving guidance. Every 5 miles per hour over 60 miles per hour reduces fuel economy by 7%. Translated to dollars, 27 cents added to every gallon for every 5 miles per hour above the threshold. Aerodynamic drag scales with the square of velocity. Cruising at 75 miles per hour instead of 60 miles per hour applies roughly a 21% fuel penalty. On a 15-gallon fill-up at $4.09 per gallon, that is $12.88 wasted per tank. Cap highway cruising at 65. The time difference on most trips is under 4 minutes. Idle equals 0 miles per gallon, full fuel consumption, 0 motion. The DOE measured idling at 0.25 to 0.5 gallons per hour, depending on engine size. 10 minutes of idling burns roughly half a gallon. AAA confirmed that modern fuel-injected engines warm up faster while driving than at idle. The 30-second rule applies. Anything beyond that is fuel burned for nothing. Shut the engine off when stopped longer than 30 seconds. Drive-through lines, school pickup, train crossings. Annual savings for a typical idling habit, roughly $300 per year. The DOE published the weight relationship clearly. Every 100 pounds of extra cargo costs 1% in fuel economy. Roof cargo boxes are worse, 10 to 25% fuel penalty at interstate speeds. Japan's Mediguidance reports that air conditioning at 25 degrees Celsius interior temperature, when the outside air is the same, costs 12% in fuel economy. Japanese drivers regularly empty trunks and remove unused roof racks. The discipline is monthly. That is 6 additional techniques on top of e-start. But here's the math nobody runs. What happens when you stack them all together? Here is the math nobody runs. E-start, 10%. Tire pressure, 3.3%. Constant speed, 6%. Engine braking, 2%. Speed reduction below 67%. Air conditioning discipline, 12% in moderate weather. Idle elimination, $300 saved annually on its own. These percentages do not add, they compound. Each technique operates on the fuel that survived the previous technique. A driver currently averaging 22 miles per gallon who fixes aggressive acceleration jumps to about 24.2 mpg, who then fixes tire pressure jumps to 25 mpg, who then drops cruising speed below 65 jumps to 26.7 mpg. By the end of the stack, the same vehicle, same trip, same gasoline, different driver averages closer to 33 mpg. What does the verified data confirm? Isuzu's 13-year program with 12,000 drivers averaged 26% improvement. Edmunds tested aggressive hypermiling on a Land Rover LR3 and recorded 35.4% improvement in controlled conditions. The 50% figure that mainstream coverage attaches to the Japanese method requires an aggressive driver fixing every habit at once. Most viewers will see somewhere between 20 and 30% improvement. That is still $480 to $720 saved per year on a $2,411 gas budget. Run the lifetime math. If you spend $200 a month on gas, a 25% reduction is $50 back every single month. $600 a year. $6,000 over a decade. $12,000 over the life of 2 cars. The Toyota or Honda you are driving was engineered for this efficiency. You just were never taught how to access it. So, what does the daily protocol look like? 8 steps, 0 cost. The full Japanese fuel discipline protocol. Step 1. Tire pressure check. Cost 0. Time 5 minutes. Frequency monthly. Use the PSI on the driver's door jam sticker, not the sidewall maximum. Step 2. E-start every acceleration. Cost 0. 5 extra seconds per launch. Daily habit. Target 12 miles per hour in the first 5 seconds after a green light. Step 3. Engine braking for deceleration. Cost 0. Instant habit shift. Daily. Lift the accelerator 100 meters before every red light and let the engine slow the car. Step 4. Speed cap at 65 miles per hour on highways. Cost 0. Time difference on most trips is under 4 minutes. Daily. Cruise control engaged. Step 5. Idle elimination. Cost 0. Engine off when stopped longer than 30 seconds. Daily. Drive-through lines, school pickups, train crossings. Step 6. Weight check. Cost 0. 5 minutes monthly. Empty the trunk. Remove roof racks, not actively in use. Step 7. Air conditioning discipline. Cost 0. Situational. Off when interior temperature already matches outside air. Step 8. MPG tracking. Cost 0. 30 seconds per fill-up. Weekly. Log gallons and miles. The number tells you whether the protocol is working or whether one habit is regressing. 8 steps. None require a mechanic. None require a new car. None cost more than 5 minutes a month. Together, they are what Japan's transportation ministry calls eco-driving, what the rest of us would call a $1,200 raise. Before we wrap up, there is one thing the data does not capture, and it might be the most important part. Japanese drivers track miles per gallon weekly, the way Americans track step counts. Not for environmental ideology, for discipline. The cultural word for it is nempomania, fuel economy obsession. It is a cost discipline, woven into daily routine, the same way other cultures treat saving money or eating well. Here is the philosophical reframe that matters most. Eco-driving is not slow driving. It is precision driving. E-start does not delay your arrival. Gentle acceleration takes 5 seconds. Aggressive acceleration takes 3. The 2-second difference does not change traffic flow. It only changes your fuel bill. Japan's transportation ministry does not publish driving doctrine because they want emotionally controlled drivers. They publish it because individual driving habits compound across 80 million vehicles into national fuel security. Each driver is infrastructure. Each fill-up is a vote. The Japanese don't drive less, they drive smarter. 30-day challenge. Track your MPG before today. Apply the 8 steps for 30 days. Comment your before and after numbers below. The biggest savings will be featured in next month's video. Question for the comments. How much do you currently spend on gasoline per month? The math gets brutal once you write it down. Every script, edit, and voiceover on this channel is crafted with real human expertise, not mass-produced content. If this helped you, Subscribe for more.